Hello, how you doing? And welcome to another little painting live stream. I've got the Chaos Beastman that I was working on last week. Not that we can get focus on it, of course, as is the tradition. This is of course coming from the bloodreaver that I painted for competition a few months ago. I think I did fairly well. Probably one of my best painted models. And given that this is a Chaos model and the Beastmen are Chaos models, I thought I may as well paint them in a similar scheme. Not the same, not perfectly matching, but a lot of the same colours have gone in. So we've made decent headway. We've got most of the base coats down. We've got a little bit of highlighting, not much, last week. And so today we've got the hooves, the horns, the kind of hair in the ponytail, belts and pouches. We've got all of the non-metallic metal, the gun, the chainmail, the chainsword. Loads of non-metallic metal to do. And I want to do some more detailing on the kind of leather wraps. In fact, I think I want to start with the leather wraps, because that is a fairly easy thing to get stuck into. And for the sake of actually getting started, let's start there. Let's see, how much have we got on the wet palette? I've been painting through the week, so hopefully the wet palette's got some useful stuff on it, but as always, I can pull more. Just trying to get the raised edges of this, give it some shape. Let's throw in a little white as well. Brighten it up. I'm not sure how far into white I actually want to go with these. With the original bloodreaver, I actually didn't put very much highlight at all. It's just a very thin stripe of white on the dark brown. Kind of don't like that. I wanted to see if I could do better. Yeah, that's the colour. That's the colour I wanted. It's kind of nice, slightly off-white, just like a brownie cream. Did I do the back of this wrap? I think I did. Looks like I'll have to go back, turn it around, go back to the brown. Yeah. All of this underside, kind of the back side of the the wrap as well. Hello, Foxy Mitts. How are you doing? It's actually kind of slightly convenient that my primer color here was sounds good. Thank you very much. A tan primer. It usually doesn't matter, but when painting browns, if you leave a bit of tan showing, well, free specular highlight, I guess. The underneath doesn't need as much effort as the top will get. I still want to give it a little something, just so that it's noticeably been done from tabletop angle. Yeah, that'll kind of do it. Beastman coming along some more. Yep. I'm well. Good. I'm also fairly well. Grandpa Wolf, happy Wednesday. Excellent. I was worried that I wouldn't catch anyone this week, but it turns out you're all here, so that's good. I was pretty late setting up the stream. Usually I set up about an hour in advance. Happy what? Some rude connection there. Yeah, usually I set up about an hour in advance, and today it was about 10 minutes before I started streaming that I got everything set up. Speaking of the stream and setting up the stream, I can actually probably set up next week's stream fairly soon, because we already know what we want to do next week, because we discussed it last week. We want to do the one of the Airfix vehicles. Now what that means, for anyone who knows Airfix vehicles, is in advance of that I will have to take the pilot and the pilot's chair, paint that, because then you have to glue it together with the pilot in already, because of the way the Airfix kits work. I'm sure I can manage that in a week. I will probably go for the, just for the sake of starting easy, go for the easiest one to build, which I think is the Spitfire, because it's a British aviation set. Minis with a skull on the base always cheer me up. Yeah, it's got a skull. Now, there is actually a very good reason why I put the skull on the base, and I actually might add... Well, there's actually 2 skulls on this base. I might add a third. Just let me do this quick wrap thing, and I'll show you all the stuff about the skulls. I'm kind of doing this in the opposite order. Usually you'd paint it dark. That's the tradition. And go for light in the corner, but in this case it was already painted quite light, and rather than obliterating that and going all the way through, I think I can just put in some dark stripes, and that's good enough. Just a little bit of the brown just as a glaze. Yeah, there we go. Oh, that doesn't look very good on camera. It looks great in person. I might come back to that. Anyway, skull bases. So the original model has a pre-molded base. Shush you. Pre-molded base with skulls and crackle effect. And it's all just molded into the plastic. And I'm going to recreate this on this model. So I'm not going to do that on stream because, as we have discovered in previous streams, doing bases on stream is rubbish because I can't get a decent angle on it. But there's like some mounds here, which would be a mound of super glue and baking powder probably, and then I'll paint the whole thing fairly dark and put a crackle paste over it, and then purple base room. There is an entire commotion going on outside. I'm not sure if you can hear any of it on the stream. Just some people having a fine old lovely time of shouting at each other. So I probably don't want to spend too long on the pouches, just because pouches are slightly boring, and I have more important things to do with my time than paint pouches. So if I just put a slightly messy mix of colours on that somehow closely match the sculpting, maybe that'll look good enough when it's dry that I don't have to touch it again. Can't hear noise. Oh, can hear noise, but can't tell what it is. Okay. You'll probably hear the dog barking every now and again because, you know, the dog barks. That's what it does. So now I realise there's more pouches over here, and I have to replicate all of that all over again. I should have been paying more attention to the thing that I was talking about. I'm surprised that you pay attention to me, because I don't even pay attention to me. If we could at all change focus, can we? Ah, interesting. Okay, so we can change focus. Okay. The obligatory spend half of the live stream futzing with the focus. Obviously can't avoid that. Yeah, that's probably enough for the pouches. Maybe I could throw on a brown wash later, just for the sake of adding something. don't want to get some yellow. You phase in and out of my attention span. Well, I'm not surprised. My old pink onto yellow trick. Given that we have used some yellow on this model already. Actually, I think this yellow is the yellow from last week. I haven't used it since. It's kind of slightly clumpy, but managed to breathe some life into it. There we go. That's a nice. I just love how instant vibrancy you get from that. See about shading. Hopefully without killing too much of the vibrancy on the high points. This poor brush. Surprised at how short a time this brush has lasted. I guess I'm not used to sable brushes overall. Right, that's something that I'm starting to realise is more of a thing than I gave it credit at first. Because this brush is the pure red sable Germany, size 3. And when it was new, it was absolutely amazing. It had a perfect point, and I was painting eyes with this brush, size 3. And over the last couple of months, I've painted pretty much predominantly everything with this brush, which is a lot of models, to be fair. But yeah, it does not come to a sharp tip anymore. You can just about tell on the stream that it's slightly rounded. Kind of, yeah. From there it looks fairly pointy, but even that's not actually as good a point as it used to have. Should also do the wraps, the leg wraps. trying out some new music in the playlist, just to mix things up a little bit. I've actually taken vibe tracks out of the playlist temporarily because I still like them. Foxy Mitts will be happy at that because she says that vibe tracks sounds like elevator music. But the new stuff is from Nefex, I think. Like Neffex. Foxy Mitts is happy with the improvement in music. I'm happy that it's just different. Don't necessarily like listening to the same thing over and over forever. Yeah, that's sort of what I wanted with the leg wraps. Let's go for something subtly different. Basically the same, but kind of just slightly different with the hooves. Ow. Ugh. Excuse me. I guess we're going for streaky hooves. Grandpa Werewolf is mostly here paying attention, just wandered off to take some measurements. Building some foam core shelving inserts to store more models. Bless you, you are excused, thank you. Yes. I do not sneeze often, but when I do, I make sure everybody within a very long distance is aware of it. Very similar colour tone to the wrap. I'm not sure I approve. Let's try. An instant glaze. Yeah, there we go. That saved it. Once you know the difference between a wash, a glaze, and more importantly, how to make one on a wet palette instantly, it's a very, very handy skill to have. Just like, I'd like this to be a little more brown, but not quite as brown as the brown paint. Well, instant glaze. There you go. Well, this is going to be annoying because I'm reaching all the way through the model. Ugh. Ugh, that doesn't look good. That doesn't look good at all. You can't even see. I'm painting the other hoof from the inside. The skull is in the way. Well, I think that's probably as good as that's going to get. I think that's sort of where I was going with it. There's just a little bit of texture from the brush strokes. Huh. Screens have obviously moved at some point. The OBS software was updated recently, and so everything just has shifted slightly for no apparent reason. It just has. Next we need to figure out is what colour do we paint the hair, because we're getting to that point. I was originally thinking of doing it orange, but kind of red hair with the orange. But it'd sort of disappear into the armour, I fear. I've actually not got much in the way of the rich dark brown. I've highlighted every single bit quite heavily. Like the hooves, the wraps, the belts. Like everywhere I've used that brown has been highlighted quite a lot. Even here. So I might actually just do it the dark brown. It'll need some highlighting, of course. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it needs shading. Let me percolate on that for a minute whilst I paint the other horn, which needs doing. Yeah, they just about balance on the front. I will need to paint the back of the horns, which, like other parts of the model, not spending as much time painting the back. This is no Golden Demon winner. No hope of ever getting a dog Golden Demon. Or Slayer Sword or any other painting competition. I can't even win the Eons of Battle painting challenge. Sorry, getting distracted by the grey. Yes, just before we disappear off into the non-metallic metal for the rest of our lives. There's a couple of bits of wrapping here. Ah, there's the grenades as well. That's... I think my green has... Oh no, no, there is still just enough green. Just seeing how much of this I can use off of the wet palette from previous models. Whatever's left may as well get used. Some paints do just like to dry up even on the wet palette fairly quickly, but some last all week, like the yellow. I haven't used yellow all week. The last time I used the yellow was on the shoulder pad of this model last week. Just for fun, let's give that old-fashioned. Black stripe for the melter bomb. Also black across the rib in the middle, which will be painted metallic. I mean, I can actually, I've got some grey here, I can just give it a bit. Grey is running out. Let's find something dark to go with the green and bring that down because that's too light. for the grenades. So the beard and the non-metallic metal, and then we're done? Maybe? Maybe. Well, in which case, let's get the beard and hair done. So we said I wanted to darken it first. So let's get some black with the brown in on the first layer. Because then my first highlight colour can be just the straight brown. It's a pretty cool beard. It's kind of gone on fairly thin, but that's probably all right. Because I can reinforce anywhere that I want to be the darkest parts. I feel like highlighting to ochre just so that there's at least some pigment in this rather than just being going into white. Assuming my ochre hasn't dried up horribly, which it has. It would help if my brush picked up any of the paint. This is not playing along. Well, at least someone thinks it looks good. But that someone ain't me. I'm really struggling getting this hair to behave. Dry brush. I think I have ended up a lot lighter. Even the purple looks lighter, which is weird because I haven't actually highlighted it at all. It's just the same paint. Things are not looking good, but let's go on to the non-metallic metal. See if I can't make it look any worse. Yeah, it is a different primer. I've found that different primers don't affect paint tone anywhere near as much as people think. Like, I've done some testing with, like, my sister's done some testing as well, with black and white primer and painting with exactly the same paints and techniques on like 2 identical models, and the difference between black and white is almost not there. I guess the value isn't the only thing, there's some colour coming through as well. So it's possible. I'm not saying it's not, I'm just saying it's possible. That's sort of the right cartoony, non-metallic look I'm after. Hello, Dr. Wongface. Weekly inspiration to start painting Gaunt's Ghosts Necromunda Outcast gang. Is that painting the Necromunda Outcasts as Gaunt's Ghosts? Interesting. I've seen a couple of people want them for the Infadi cultists from Herodor? Hegia. I mean, they'd make the great Geryon mission. Geryon 12. Actually, speaking of Geryon, I know something pretty fun from Discovery Series 4, Star Trek Discovery, which is pretty amazing, actually. Nicholas, hi, how you doing? In Discovery Series 4, firstly they blow up a planet, and I took a screenshot, and I'm like, this is the Tanith of Star Trek. And then in a like the next episode, they go to a moon called Geryon, and I'm like, I know this name, I know this place. I'm trying to get this black paint to be thin enough that I can get it. There we go. Down into the recesses, rather than just off the surface. Both kits added cloaks to the outcasts with green stuff. Yeah, that'd do it. It has been mentioned several times that the Necromunda Orlok, whatever the buggies are called, the Orlok buggies, would make great Tanith Outriders. I'm going to petition for Abnett to put the Outriders as a permanent part of the regiment. We want more buggies because they're cool. But I'm not getting them. I just been to a job interview yesterday, so hopefully soon I will have employment, and from there I can go on to buy some more models. Some stuff from Bad Squiddo Games, particularly on the list of stuff what I want. That has too much water. Maybe if I get some... Fingers crossed for you. Thank you, Foxymus. Let's get some darker grey in here. Not sure if that helped. Gets a lot more black on this to start with. Let's find some places for some various shades. One of the things I kinda maybe should go against is the pure grey metallic. So the original model had a limit of 5 paints. And so when it came to the non-metallics, well, firstly, if you're having 5 paints, do you want to spend one of those on a metallic? Maybe you do. Some people did. I wasn't gonna. But if you're gonna do non-metallic with a limited paint selection, what paints do you choose? In this case, I went for black and white. I mixed up all the grey and just had black and white for my non-metallics. It's not helping me now. Let's try that darker mid-tone trick again. Better, but I've always been able to get like right onto the edge of non-metallic, but I've never quite pushed it over into like actually having that look. And there's one thing I should try, not in this model, but at some point, is graphite bluing. show you that on this pistol, which is all refocus, which is all cheap nasty plastic, tan paint, silver paint here on the ejection port, but all of the slide. This was done with a technique called graphite bluing, which essentially is a flat grey, and then you take graphite powder, which is used as a lubricant, and rub it into the surface, and you get this ever so slightly shiny, kind of metallic looking surface. And then when it scratches, you get orange plastic showing through, but ignore that, that's fine. But this kind of graphite bluing technique, I've seen people do it on model cars. Particularly as an edge highlight. So putting the whatever colour the panel of the car would be, and then painting in, and then going over the corner with a pencil to give it just that graphite kind of around the corner. It's a really nice edge highlight effect. Oh yeah, I should say, you can either use graphite powder, like you can buy a bag of graphite powder, which is extremely fine stuff, so do be careful with that kind of thing. Or you can just grind up a pencil. I've actually found that using different grades of pencil is a very easy way of getting a very different tone. So if you want a very kind of, the one that I just showed was probably a HB or a B, but if you want a much darker, richer metallic, you can get you can go down to like 8B. I've seen people use as much as that, and it comes out pretty good. How is that for non-metallic metal? Yeah, it's at that point where it's just, it's nearly there, and I don't quite know how to push it that little bit further over the edge into non-metallic. Like to actually seem like a reflective surface. Oh well. The spikes should be, he says, knowing that this is not how it works, should be a lot easier. Let's find out how wrong I am. Nicholas in with the fantastically good advice, just use metallic paint. Yeah, you see, that kind of defeats the whole point, you troll. See, I find this works really well. Like, not so much the like full metallic areas, but on the edge of like other coloured areas, it looks like doing an edge highlight with grey and white really makes it look like a reflective edge that's worn through the paint. I've used that quite a few times. I won't tell if you won't. It kind of looks completely different. Non-metallics and true metallics do have very different effects. And I find I find true metallic paints. I find true metallic paints to be unreliable. Like, even a true metallic that I've really liked at some point can turn and just not give the effect I want. Whereas if I can learn non-metallic, did I say that the right way around? True metallics are fickle. That's what I meant to say. Whereas non-metallics take forever. If you can get it right, you can be quite deliberate and get just the effect that you want. Dr. Bongface, what's the virtue of not using metallic paints? I like the coverage. I'm a very lazy painter. Well, it's about the style and the effect. Mostly, it's an artistic choice. Metallic paints don't really look like that object scaled up. Like, if you look at a photograph of a tank or a soldier with a gun barrel, or a spear, or whatever it is, if you look at the photograph of the model and a photograph of a real full-size person or vehicle, the metal looks extremely different in real life than it does with metallic paints. Metallic paints are a good, very quick way of having something that everyone agrees is close enough. Nicholas in there deleting comments again. Whereas with non-metallics, you can get exactly the effect you're after reliably every time, assuming that you can actually do the effect, which I'm still learning. It is difficult and it takes time, and that's fine. But you can paint in reflections of an environment that a true metallic metal can't reflect because it's not actually there. If you had a character that was running across grass, you can paint in green reflections on the underneath of all of the armor pieces, in the case of a model with lots of armor, and you can make it look like they're standing above a green field, even though they're not, because they're standing on your table or your shelf. So there are many uses. There's other uses as well for non-metallics, but it is an artistic thing of trying to either go for hyper-realism or for hyper-stylism. And I'd like to at least be able to do realistic. It's the realistic reflections is not what I'm after in the end, but it's something I'd like to be able to do. Nicholas says, love Leadbelcher. It's one of the Games Workshop ones, isn't it? To be fair, Games Workshop metallics are fairly good. I still prefer Vallejo metallics. Army Painter plate metal and Vallejo game color gunmetal. These two, dark silver and a light silver, absolutely amazing. Love them. Vallejo is pretty hard to get where you live. That's actually true. The only time I ever get Vallejo is basically on eBay, and it's not ideal because it's usually fairly expensive. Like, Vallejo should be one of the cheaper options because like retail price is quite low, but if you end up paying for postage and all of that, it adds up. If I didn't have so many damn paints, I would be very tempted to just buy like one of the Vallejo starter sets, like the not like the greens and browns one, the rich coloured ones. That's come out alright. Like that spike. That one. That's come out alright. Again, it's just on that borderline. It's not quite tilting over into to non-metallic, but it's kind of a cartoony stylized version, which is exactly what I had on this. That kind of cartoony stylized non-metallic. So that's alright. They fit. So let's carry on. Let's get some more edging on the armor panel. Then we have to do the chainmail, of course. That's going to be the fun one. I'm actually pretty lucky when it comes to paint selection because we've got Hobbycraft near us that has Tamiya, like an extensive selection of Tamiya and Revell. I'm not the biggest fan of the Revell square pots. Like, I like the paints, but these pots are rubbish. It's kind of like Games Workshop paints. The paints themselves are fine, but the Games Workshop pot design and the Revell pot design, not great. And then at the local gaming shop, they have Army Painter scale color. They've got scale color in. They've got. I think they've stopped doing P3. Although I do have a couple of P3s. I like P3s. The pot's even worse than Games Workshop paints, but what other brands do they have? Citadel, Army Painter, Scale Color. There's one more. It's right at the till. Where is it? Acryl. That's the other one. Oh yeah, and they've got the Army Painter speed paints as well, which I'm honestly not that interested in. I can paint really quickly if I wanted to, but I actually kind of like taking my time and painting through things. Hence why I'm painting non-metallic metal, one of the longest and most time-consuming techniques. Nicholas says Tamiya is always too watery. Is that the Tamiya enamels or the Tamiya acrylics? Because I haven't tried either of them recently. I've got some of the old Tamiya enamels, which are very good, but they're enamels, so they're harder to work with. Not harder to work with, it's just you have to set everything up and get the thinners out, and yeah, it's a whole thing, it's a whole process. Can you please? Acrylics. Yeah, I haven't tried their acrylics, so I can't compare. What's the other one that Airfix do? Because Hobbycraft have that line as well. There's like 6 companies that are owned by the same, or 6 brands that are owned by the same company. Airfix, Scalextrics. Who does the paints? It'll come to me. I'll remember it in a minute. Front of the chainsword, chainmail. I think that's it. Humbrol. That's the one. Humbrol paints are, again, I've used their enamels in the past. Have not used much of them recently. I assume they have an acrylics line because everybody has an acrylics line these days. Can I get away with just dry brushing? Not really. Okay. In which case, this is going to be extremely time-consuming and tedious. So I'll have to do every single one separately. How's that on the non-metallic metal scale? I think I could do a little more if I just darken the recesses. So let's mix up a wash. Perhaps better. That's better. While I'm here with the wash, Might just give the beard a quick once over. This is coming out more like a filter than a wash, but yeah, close enough. It's pulling to the recesses, which is what I was after. Yeah, that really tidies it up. The temptation now is to just go over everything. Must resist the urge to blackwash everything. Get some. Any experiences with two-tone or cracking paint? I don't know what two-tone paint. If you mean cracking paint as in something like this, which is a crackle effect texture paste, you paint this down and as it dries it breaks apart. This stuff, it's slightly finicky to use. Getting the thickness correct and getting the right undersurface so that it actually holds takes some experimentation. Once you've done 10 or 20, you've basically worked out how to do it. But yeah, it just takes a bit of practice to make sure you use the right primer and the right thickness when you apply it. And then varnish over the top, otherwise it'll all fall off. Right, how much more is there to do on this? I think the fur, particularly on the face, is lacking something. But if I push up into the white, I can either push up into white or push up into brown. And I don't think either of them are going to work very well. Oh wait, before I get sidetracked with that, I have a chainsaw to do. that's as good as the other side. Non-metallic chainsword close up. Here is the front. And there is the back. I think the back has come out a little better, which is probably for the best, as that's the more visible side. But it still has that kind of very cartoony look, which is fine. I do want to push into a more realistic style at some point. What are we at? Half a steak. Well, thankfully, not only am I getting tired, but we're sort of done with the model. I feel like there's something more that needs to be done to the face. Obviously the base needs to be done. I'll do that off stream because it's hard to see what I'm doing when I'm painting the base. Oops. Well, I'll potter around and do a couple more things, but if anyone has any questions, any comments, any points of discussion that they would like to make before I end the stream, now is the time. Because it looks like I will be finishing a little early. Classic red eyes. Can you even? Can't even see it. Nicholas amazingly asks, will the ED-SKaR see a revamp or return? I have had that model on my desk right here so that I can show you it on stream for the last month? At least the last month. And I've just taken it back downstairs this last week because it was taking up space. Yes, I will at some point. I'm not gonna strip it and start again. I'm gonna leave what paint there is on it. Basically all it needs, because that model has the twin big shooters already. It's got various bits of the cyborg body already. It only needs the back plate with the bionic arms. That's all it needs added to it. So yeah, it's just a case of working out what I want to do with those arms, designing, throwing it on the back, like painting it and gluing it to the back, and then maybe some touch-ups to the paint job that's already there. Grandpa Werewolf, fun show. You're welcome. Did the math and need 2 full pieces of foam core for shelving. Looking forward to the Spitfire. Yes. Next week I will build up a Spitfire, which means I need to remember to paint the pilot in advance of that. I think that I didn't say anything about it, but I just did some black lining to the face, and it's surprisingly has helped. I didn't think it would quite as much. It has. Doug's Wong Face, the model looks great, thank you very much. Nicholas says he needs a completely new base like Gazkul with no arms. Yeah, but I don't play orcs anymore. I guess you don't need to play the army to use the model. Like display models are a thing. If I went from scratch to do ED-SKaR, what would I do? What would a from scratch ED-SKaR look like? That's a good question. Would I still want to base him off of the Warlord model? Definitely don't want to go off of Gazkul model, because other than the original one, the Gazkul's always been in a mega armor. ED-SKaR doesn't wear mega armor, so Gazkul model is not right for a base. Oh, that was a mess. No, Nick. Yuck. It's not given how much white I'm using on this model. Painting the teeth just disappears into everything else. But there was a nose ring and the teeth for just minor points of detail. So now that I've said I'm going to end the stream early, I'm probably going to be here just as long as I normally have. Just kind of doing lots of little bits here and there. I think this has come out fairly well. It's not perfect, doesn't need to be. He's maybe, yeah, he's definitely a lot brighter in value overall than the original. But that's okay. The armor matches the clothes match. And once I've done the base as well. Yeah. This looks pretty good. Ooh, there's leaves down here. I hadn't noticed that. I think this piece on the back of the base, the kind of tree root growing around a skull, I'm pretty sure this is from the old Wood Elf kit. I think. Be fun to do a match of a squad of ghosts versus ED-SKaR. You mean your ghosts versus my ghosts, or these chaos versus my ghosts? Because that's something I'm planning on doing. Ghost versus ghost in a training exercise. I mean, you have to have Brag on one side and Coup on the other. Readers of the Guns of Tanith will hate me for that one. The Guns of Tanith? I think it might be the Guns of Tanith. Let's get these leaves done. We'll get the leaves done, and then I'll call the stream done. Made Gad's skull. Gad's skull. I don't recognise that name. Turn Gad's skull into a big mech with a shock attack gun. That is a big mech. That is a very large mech. Actually, that reminds me of something. The one thing I don't understand about modern orcs. Why are killer cans grots? Because that doesn't make no sense. Because the whole point of killer cans is that as an orc gets kind of bigger and bigger tech, well, as they fight more, they get physically larger, but they also get more and more stuff. They carry bigger suits of armor with them. And they kind of noble in mega armor is where it starts, and then it goes up. And they can either go into command structure and become war boss, warlord, that kind of thing, or they go big mech, not big mech, killer can, dreadnought, and then into larger vehicles, and they just kind of grow over time. But now they've changed it, and for some reason grots are killer cans. Don't know why an orc would let a grot take over a vehicle. Grok's got a killer can. Well, yeah, find the right opportunity, smash his head in, and have the killer can off him. Nicholas says, did you steal the Blade soundtrack? I've got some new music from Nefex. So I've mixed up Dan Hennig and Nefex today, rather than my usual vibe tracks. They're taking them off just for today. Still keeping vibe tracks around because I like the music, but you know, a little variation every now and again, a little something different. Some of my latest videos, or the videos I'm currently working on, will have Nefex music as well. Again, just for variety's sake. Well, we're done early. I've got my model finished. Yeah, that black lining on the face did help. It's still not great, but it's alright. Dr. Boneface saying, sure as sure, I see you there. Sure as sure. So, I have 2 more of these Beastmen. Because there were 4 in the set and my sister's nabbed 1, so I've got 3. Painted 1, got 2 left. I will probably paint them all on live stream over the next however many months. I'll intermix them with other things so it doesn't get boring, but I will come back and basically do the other 2 of these. But next week will be Airfix Spitfire, and we'll see if we can get it done in one stream. I think we might be able to because it's a super simple kit. And then we'll look at painting something, and then the next week we'll build a model and I'll kind of alternate between them. So, is there much more? Only in Death was your favourite. I can't really narrow it down to my favourite book of the ED-SKaR series. I can certainly narrow it down to my top 15. Well, yeah, I'll finish up the stream now. So I have my next video is already up, ready for Friday night or Friday evening in the UK, and next stream will be a FX Spitfire. So thank you very much to everyone for popping along. Thank you to Foxy Mitts, Nicholas, Grandpa Welf, Dr. Longface, and everyone else who has joined me. I will see you next week. I'm ED-SKaR, and I always will be.